This is part 1 of chapter 2, cost behavior and cost estimation. What we're going to look at in this chapter is how costs behave. Do they move up, down, stay the same? Depending upon activity in a business will dictate how our costs behave. Our first learning objective is to, and there's quite a few items here, but anyway, we want to identify the basic cost behavior patterns. We'll talk about those and explain those in good detail. And how cost behaves as, again, activity levels move up and down. Why is it important for managers to understand cost behavior patterns? Because we need to be able to plan as part of the planning aspect of management, and if we have a pretty good idea of how costs are going to behave with activity, that will definitely help us in our business. We're going to talk about what is a variable cost. A variable cost changes with activity. The total cost changes with activity. What's a fixed cost? It's a type of cost that doesn't change. An example could be rent. We're going to talk about the differences between discretionary and committed fixed cost. We're going to discuss mixed cost. That's a type of cost that has a fixed component of cost as well as a variable component of cost. And then another type of cost is really related to fixed cost, but it moves in a little bit different direction, or not direction, but in a different way as activity increases or decreases. And again, that's a step cost. So there's basically 4 types of cost behavior. Variable cost, again, what varies is the total cost varies with activity. And we're going to see an example of that here in just another slide. Fixed cost is another type, step variable cost, and then mixed cost. So let's take a look at an example of variable cost. And again, variable costs are the per unit cost is the same, but depending upon activity levels, then the total cost changes. So an example they've got here is you've been studying, you're getting ready to take a break. You open up a nice cold can of soda. I hope it's non-alcoholic soda. But anyway, the doorbell rings and in come 3 of your friends. So let's assume that each can of the soda costs 75 cents. It doesn't change based upon activity. But what does change is the total cost depending upon how many cans of the soda are used or drank. So if you've got yourself and 3 other friends, that's a total of 4. So at 75 cents per can, your total cost is $3. And you can see on this illustration that depending upon how many friends are drinking the soda, then your total cost varies. So again, important point, the cost per can does not vary, but the total cost does vary based again upon activity. If you were to chart variable cost, it's linear. It's very predictable. You can see here on the left-hand side, we've got total cost of sodas, so that's your total cost. On the bottom, you've got the number of people. So beginning at 0 people, and if your soda costs 75 cents a can, then you're going to have 0. Now at 1, you can see how it goes up to 75 cents, 2, $1.50, so on and so forth. So again, charting a variable cost is a linear relationship there. Let's talk about some examples of variable costs. These are 4 different types of businesses, and they're all going to have different types of variable costs. If you think about a hotel chain, what comes to my mind is if someone rents a hotel room, there's going to be cost they're going to vary upon whether a room's rented or not, like cleaning cost, utilities cost from the air conditioner running or the heat. A commercial airline, one that immediately comes to my mind is fuel cost. If an airline plane is sitting on the ramp and the engines are not running, there is no fuel cost. But as soon as they fire those engines up and start burning fuel, that's a variable cost. The fuel cost is going to vary based upon if the engine's running, and if it is running, how long is it going to run. A cereal manufacturer, a variable cost that they might have would be the ingredients for the cereal that they produce. If they produce 1,000 boxes of cereal, then they're going to have a certain amount of total cost of the ingredients. But as that number produced increases or decreases, then their ingredients cost is going to change with it. Automobile manufacturer, parts for the automobiles. If they're building automobiles, then they're going to have variable costs based upon the parts that they're using to do that with. So now we're going to another example, and they're using pizza this time. They talked about the soda in the previous slide, and now they're going to talk about how cost behaves with a pizza. So it says you can order a $12 large pizza from your favorite pizza place. That total cost is fixed. You bought one pizza, it's $12. Now what changes though is the cost per person based upon how many people are going to eat on this one individual pizza. So again, the pizza cost is fixed at $12. As you can see from this illustration, as the number of friends that are eating the pizza increases, the cost per person decreases. So fixed cost, as you can see in this chart, it's flat. It really, no matter how many people are going to eat on this pizza, the total cost of the pizza is $12. It remains the same. But the unit cost will change inversely with changes in volume. The more people that are eating the pizza, the less cost there is per person. Now this last bullet point is something important to remember too. This fixed relationship only holds over the relevant range. So, I mean, if you really think about it, how many people is a $12 pizza really going to feed? So, at some point you're going to have to do what? Buy another pizza if more people show up. So let's just play a game here and say that this pizza will, realistically feed 4 people. Well, if we have the 5th person show up, we're going to be in a different relative range. We're going to need to buy another pizza to feed number 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then if we're going to go to even more people, 9, 10, 11, 12, we're going to have to order 3 pizzas. So there is a relevant range here. So this is a good illustration to help you see the difference between variable costs and fixed costs. And again, we've got 4 friends. The variable cost, what varies is the total cost. Our cost per can is 75 cents. And as our number of cans increases, then the total cost is going to increase. So the total cost varies. In the bottom, the fixed cost, no matter how many friends we have, the total cost is going to be the same as $12. What does vary though in this situation is the cost per person. Since we do have a fixed cost, the more people we have, the less cost per person we have. Now fixed costs really come into 2 flavors as well. And it depends on the time frame of when you're going to incur these costs. They give an example here, 6 months of advertising. Yes, maybe it's a fixed cost. Maybe we're paying, $5,000 for the advertising campaign, but it's going to end in 6 months. That's discretionary. We can do it or not. Our business is not going to shut down if we don't do this. But a factory lease, here we've got a 10-year factory lease, it's committed. No matter what we do from this point forward, produce 1 unit or 1,000,000 units, our landlord is going to expect us to pay the lease on the facility, on the factory. Step cost. Again, this is a fixed cost, but it's going to change when the relevant range changes. And here you have a university requires 1 support staff person for every 500 students that they have. And they're going to pay these staff members $70,000 annual salary. So the annual salary is fixed for that 1 support staff person, which can support 500 students. So you can see between 1 and 500 students, then the total cost for that person is going to be $70,000. But if our enrollment jumps up to 501 students, to 1,000 students, and any number in between, we're going to have to hire another support staff person at, again, a $70,000 annual salary. So you can see our total cost has jumped up to $140,000. If our enrollment goes up to 1,001, and any number between 1,001 and 1,500 students, we're going to have that third support staff person. So again, our total cost jumps up another $70,000, and you can see that with the 1,501 to 2,000, our total cost is going to increase to $280,000 because we have 4 support staffs positions required for this level of students. In this chart, you can see again the cost remains fixed over this range of students, 0 to 500 at $70,000, and it steps up to $140,000, $210, and $280, again depending upon the number of enrolled students. I think it's an excellent example of step cost.